Right, it's another quick update. I've managed to kind of roughly clean those off, so there's not quite so much rubbish. The bottom disc I've left dirty at the moment, all that's drained into it, so yeah, not too bad. Oh, I don't think I showed you that properly. So that's the cam track. I've definitely butchered the hell out of that, and you can now see where the track was that's missing. It should have been there, but hey, yeah. So that goes in the scrap. There's a washer down there to remember. There's 2 washers there, and there's a load more in this where the bearings are. I've got the bearing numbers, but I've just started on the arms, so I'll show you what I'm doing. There was one here that actually sheared its end off, so literally that should be like that, and that's all sheared off because that is just there. So that should be attached onto the end of that, kind of like something like that, but apparently it's not. So I think that's well, I've got a theory that what's happened is these have given out. These are like a bearing wheel roller thingy. I'm kind of guessing that they've given out, fallen apart, and then when they're falling apart they got stuck in that cam track over there, and basically because it's all greasy and mucky in there, they don't run very well when they're not detached, well, when they're detached from everything. And I think one's probably just got turned, and the next arm's come along and smashed into it, and at some point there's obviously built up a couple of lumps of it round there and blown out that big piece of the cam track. Obviously when it blows it out, it then starts smashing itself to pieces. So I'm surprised there's not more of these, but they've gone, but never mind. So yeah, that's that one in pieces. It's also actually smashed the roll pin as well, so she's taken a whack. And if anybody wants to know what's inside these, absolutely nothing. So there's no bearings in there, it's literally shaft on shaft, that I can tell. There is a cutout in there, if you can see that, just down there, which takes the grease across, from the grease point across the shaft and then along here. And there's like a stopper there, I think. That's actually cast in. All it does is just slots on there, and there's no movement like from side to side, if you know what I mean. There's no wear on the shaft, so that's good. So yeah, there is just that little washer that just drops off. I've got so much stuff in it. Yeah, that was at that end, but I think that's seen better days. So that's that one done. And all I've done is just set this up, just drop them in, and then the that end of that arm just sits on the end of the vise. So when you brain the little pins out up here, so got a big one just to get them started, just to loosen them up, and then a little one just to drive them through. So if you're lucky, I'll get you set up. Right, so we've got all these 10 done, including these ones. Probably just seen as well, I've left all the roll pins in, just so it's easy to put them back in again. Now, because this has had quite a good whack, I think some of these might be ever so slightly bent, like that one might be. But that doesn't seem bad compared to these two that I pulled out. So, don't know where you'll tell on camera, but to me it looks like that's pulled out, which I don't know how, but there seems to be a bit of a bow in that one. And pretty much the same with that one as well. So might be 3 new ends, including that one and those two. So we just have to see. Oh, other thing as well, need to check about these spacers as well. Mentioned on this one that it's got a washer. It feels like a nylon type washer. Presume just to stop the contact between steel and steel, like up here, in here. But every single one, well, nearly every single one of them Right, that one's got one there, but this one doesn't. So I'm thinking we might have to border some washers. I think it's there anyway. No, it doesn't seem to be there, so I presume they've given out at the same time, which isn't great. But again, there's no movements backwards and forwards that way across the shaft, which is good. Right, morning ladies and gents, welcome to Saturday morning, and I'm back in here to have a go at this lot. So we got some ordered parts that have come in, and that's the new main shaft that everything sits on, and that's the cam track that we had to cut apart the other week. And there's also a bearing to go into that hub, but we only got one, so we need to order another one for that, unfortunately. So we won't get around to building this today. But because I've played around with everything and I've kind of lost the track of where stuff goes in the main bit, I've just downloaded the Kuhn, their website, to be fair, and they've got a diagram, exploded diagram of pretty much all their machines by the looks of it. So I found it for this one, which tells us about all the spacers and the bearing sequences and everything else, which shouldn't be too bad. I say I've kind of got them in order. So there's a couple of bearings there, a couple of spacers there, and then that, and then another spacer at the bottom. And then the pinion gear, I've got two bearings to come for that, but I can't see what the numbers are until I take them off, which will destroy them. So I'm kind of in two minds whether to leave that on or change them. But if I have to change it, it's a bit of a job to try and change them again. So anyway, and then there's a couple of the lock nuts at the top, the washer, and then the bolts and the keyways to hold that hub onto the dish and the gearing as well. So it'll all come together pretty quick on that side. And then what I've got in here is the rollers. See that, the rollers for the ends of these arms, which should just knock in a couple of the ends as well. So I think I explained last time there was a couple of them that are damaged and a couple of them that seem to be twisted slightly. That new bearing to go in that shaft there, which actually is a full bearing as well. I was just thinking there's going to be that bearing inside, not the full shebang, but yeah. Got that, and then these, which are what I was trying to work out the other day, which are these little spacers in here. It does look like it kind of wants them because there's going to be a lot of steel knocking against each other there. Right, so we're getting somewhere. New rollers are going on, new spacers in there are going in. Some of them are at 2-1, but the other ones are completely destroyed. Right, that one's junk. So yeah, not too bad so far. We've hit one roadblock, which is that one. I don't know how well you'll tell on there, but the roller's not in line with that piece. It's just running off, I think. Can't quite tell, so I'll leave that to the end. If need be, I'll have to order another one of those bits there, one of those ones. Which isn't the end of the world, but it's just more cost on the job, which is a bit of a pain in the bum. I mean, it looks square. That bit looks square on there, but it just doesn't look right where the roller is. When you look at these ones, everything kind of lines up. I'll try and give you something a bit. So pretty much lines up, and then you get that one. It's kind of not so square on. See what I mean? So anyway, that's one little roadblock. The other one is I need some more roll pins, and the ones I've got are very tight and don't seem to fit the hole. So yeah, not exactly what I want, but we'll see. Right, so we've come to a bit of, well, another bumping road. So this is the main input shaft into the gear, which is into that big gear there. Whoop. Get to it. Whoop. Yeah, into that big gear. So that little pinion gear comes into it, which then drives the arms round. We didn't have the bearing sizes for that, so I just had to strip it to get it out. Plus the bearing at that end could kind of fall apart anyway, so just got them out, split it all down. It is a mess. Everything's just a mess. These arms are about done. There are a couple of them that are slightly bent, but I don't think it'll affect it when it's in the field. These two, I haven't got a roll pin for them. Well, I do, but it's huge, and that's the original one that's snapped in half. That's a replacement by the looks of it. And yeah, it's you have to take them down to the workshop and try and find a roll pin for those two. But we're getting somewhere. Got these bearings out as well that fit into that hub. Got the circlip out, which was a bit of a battle as well, to be fair. Had to get some screwdrivers in there and basically pry it around so it popped out. But yeah, it's not too bad. And then I'm doing a bit of cleaning as well while at it. But yeah, it's just turned out to be a lot more work than what mine was, but I suppose mine had been stripped already. Anyway, kettle's boiled, so I'm just having a brew. Good afternoon, ladies and gents. Welcome to Saturday afternoon. Been a busy morning this morning. I just had my mate in with his Valtra and Herbst low-load trailer to pick a load of hay up from us. Last of our square bales we've got. And we've also had the last of the estate's own horses put down. So a bit of an end of an era with that one. We used to have quite a few. Must have had about 6 or 8 at one point. So yeah, a bit of an end of an era is that one. So anyway, where's livestock, there's dead stock, as I say. So I'm back in here now, finally, after having a bit of lunch. Gonna have a go at this again. Everything's pretty much cleaned up now. New bearings are here, but I didn't have that bearing the other day, which I still need another one of. And I didn't have this circlip either, because the one that I had previously was when we'd been trying to push that pin out of that frame and bent the circlip out of that bit in there. It just doesn't look very good, and that's pretty much one of the main ones that takes the pressure of the rest of the machine. So got that. 3 bearings to go, 2 into that hub and 1 into that hub. And then I've just got these arms to try and sort out. I've got another one of those ends because that one doesn't sit straight. And then I've got 2 roll pins to try and sort out in them too, because somebody's obviously done this before. And I can't get them back in, so... yeah, so bearings first, put them in. And then I want to try and get everything set out so I can just drop it straight onto that shaft and get everything built back up again. I won't get this finished today, but I'll get a good start. And then the lad that owns this is coming hopefully next week. And with his help, I can get everything back together easier. I can do it with 2 people. So, yeah, right, I'm going to put radio on and get started. Right, another Saturday morning. And hopefully we'll get this put back together again. Got all the bearings in last week. All the circlips are in. So, fingers crossed, we're all sorted. I'll double check them. What I need to do is clean these bolts up here, down here, which fit that gear ring to that and the hub that's actually under it. I need to change them over, but I need to clean these off. Got some more Loctite on the bench over there, I think. So they want Loctite in. Bang them back together, that's done. I did try and straighten this disc out a little bit because one of the edges was quite bent. I even pulled my fella rotor rake one off to see if it'd fit, but the holes are in different places. So anyway, we'll do with that. One little arm to go back on the end of those, and I've got a roll pin that I cannot for the life of me get back in at that end down there. So somebody at some point's been in and changed something in here for that roll pin, which is supposed to be that size, and don't know why you'll tell a bit of a difference between the two of them. So I'd reckon that's almost, well, it's the width of that, so it's almost like 2 or 3 mil. Well, in fact, I ground the edge off as well to try and get it in, but it wouldn't go, so I don't know how they got in before. So yeah, just made myself a brew anyway, so I'll have that, get my gloves on, and start doing stuff. Right, it's time to make a bit of progress now. So, that shaft's back in, with its spacers. I'm not entirely convinced that circlip pump, that side's back in properly. I know it's at the top, but at the bottom, well, I've been knocking it with a screwdriver and a punch just to try and seat it. I think it'll be alright. This now, so we've got the bottom, the bottom of the shaft's on. Bottom of the shaft's on. There's a spacer, the hub, and then this disc. And then this sits on top, which needs a locking key in it. Now you can have it left or right. You can have it left or right. This, as I presume, is a left. So we've got to try and decide where left is and slide the locking key in. Oh, if I can get it down that side. But it also needs to be in line with one of these keyholes, so kind of like that. It's not the end of the world if we get it wrong, because I can always slide it back up again. It's not wedged in like it was the first time round. So just clean one of these up, and that can be placed into there, and that drops over the top. But so you can lock it so it's a right or a left, which it depends where you're sitting in the tractor. But yeah, so that's to do. Yeah, that's done. I need to tidy up just the muck off this face and the holes, bolt holes, and then make sure that these holes and threads are cleaned up, which I did last time, but they want just doubling up. And then I've just cleaned up the bolts as well that run through it all. So these bolts, they do have Loctite on them already, but I'm going to put some more on. And if you can see, they're actually, they've got an edge on them, they're corrugated, so they don't move. So they kind of come up through like that, through the disc, and through that disc, and then into that cog, which holds it all together. I do need to put some Loctite on, which I've got somewhere. So yeah, it's just getting there. It's just hard trying to record and then look on my phone, because my phone's got all the diagrams in it. So a bit of a leap forward now. I had actually forgot to put, there's a little spacer and a circlip in there, I forgot to put them on, but I spotted them on the bench. So they're on, so that means the bearing can't slide out from, well, basically the outer circlip holds the outer race and the inner circlip holds the inner race on it. So in theory it should last better. I've just put the top on, well, I actually put the cam in and put the key into it as well. So that's locked in, then basically turned the saucer with the gearing upside down in the hub, slid that on. I did put a spacer in there, but I can't remember if there was a spacer in or not, but we'll soon find out when we start putting bits and pieces together. There's a big gap, but even so I don't think it'll affect it much. Basically now we need to fill, that really wants filling up with grease, because I took quite a lot of grease out of that. But that's just a case of spinning it around with grease gun going full whack and fill it, or I can just put a load in inside. We have tried spinning it around as well. It's fine, we're probably a little spinny bolt. I'm going to get dirty hands now, taking my gloves off. And just put a kettle on, so I thought it deserved a celebratory drink. So this goes in and turns quite nicely. Granted, it's all going to turn now because I've not put the keyway into there, but the only thing I do have is a bit of a ding from the plate that sits underneath the gear. It's just a plate that stops the majority of the dirt getting up from underneath. That is grinding slightly on the outside of that, but I'm not too worried. Just clean the gear out as well with all the grease that was in it, just to make sure there's nothing in there. And yeah, shouldn't be too bad, to be honest. If I slide that out, I'm just trying to make sure everything works before I actually. It feels dry at the moment because it's that grind there, and then it stops. You can hear the gears because there's no grease in it at the moment, but it seems to all turn fairly nicely. So there's just that rumbling from that spacer underneath. But yeah, coming along all right. Well, I guess that shows that I'm not perfect. Oops. Lucky, all I need to do is pull this up and it's underneath there, so it's not the world's biggest problem. So that ain't too bad. Let's go in there like that. So yeah, that's all it is at the moment. A bit of a cock up. They aren't supposed to be in there. So I had that on it, put some arms in it, and there was a gap of about that much, which pretty much equated to the size of that. So they want out. And they actually go on top of there. There's a bit added in the diagram to show, or to see sometimes where some of the things go, because it's all kind of thrown in. But when you've got bearings and side bearings with sleeves in them and circlips, when everything's stacked up on a diagram, it doesn't quite look right. But anyway, it only took us 5 minutes to take it apart. It's one of the reasons I didn't grease that up. Right, ladies and gents, it's Thursday afternoon. I've not been in this morning. I had other stuff to do. But, well, yeah, we're a bit damp. Just a little bit. Just a little bit more. So I've come up this afternoon to try and get a bit more done on this. We were having problems. Everything's gone back together fine. I've got no spare parts, which is always a good thing. But we're having problems. I think we're fixed it now, but we had problems with the arms going round. Can you see that? It keeps getting stuck. In fact, it's the one that I've got here. But just having problems with a couple of them catching. And I couldn't understand why. That. To be fair, might be the one. What I think has happened is I know I've changed these rollers out and changed some of these arms. Well, I think what's happened is more of those arms are bent and it's actually catching on the inside corner there, on the inside of the cam track, if that makes sense. So if you look at that like this, the shaft goes up and that's not 90 degrees to that bit, so yeah, I think that's the problem. If that's the problem is, that's kind of good and bad. It's cost us a bit more money, but we have got some parts, yeah, a few more of them to go on. Even these ones, you couldn't really tell that they've been damaged really, but I don't know what you'll see with the new ones. Well, in fact, see the line up? It's quite hard to show on camera, it's quite hard to see in real life, but yeah, if you look at that there, it's bent that way. Same with that one. Also, that was one of the ones that, I think it was that one that looked better than the rest. And I showed it to the lad, we put the pin into it and saw that the wheel had kind of bent around like that. It bent in there. It's just really odd. Anyway, so yeah, got 4 more. That means we'll have changed 7 out of the 10 castings. And we'll see if this fixes the job. So, right, I'm going to put some gloves on because this thing is just filthy anyway. I'm sick of washing my hands. And I got some bait as well, so I might have that first, to be fair. Well, this is turning to right, painting bum. So, new ones. I've just knocked the old one of those off the arm and found that the pin doesn't quite fit. Now, it doesn't look that far off, but can I get them back in? Can I, Ellis? I've even tried rounding the ends off and it still wouldn't go. So I've been and bought some, well, pins, 12 mils are the better size to fit in there, and they're tight, but they're not stupid tight, like they seem to be. And then I've just braided another roll pin through the centre of it as well to try and, well, like it was before. So, done 3 of them. And she's running a lot smoother now. There is one still grabbing a little bit, which I'll have to have a look at. But I'll just show you for anyone, for future reference, what our problem was. So, if you look in there, the roller sits in the track. And if you notice, it's just on the edge of the track as well. It's not fully all the way in, but it's not all the way out type thing. It's 90% in it. So what was happening was, if you can see the scratching of the marking at the back, the cam was actually, the rollers were hitting the back of it. So they were hitting, ooh, let me find something to poke with, a pokey stick. Right, so the cam was hitting that back part of the cam track. It was also hitting that lip up here, and also hitting the lip of the bottom on some of them. So when you brought this back out again, when you pull these back out again, you find that there was paint on the end of the cast arm and onto the roller as well. So that something wasn't quite right. And another lad actually took grinder to some lathes just to take edge off to see if it helped on the old ones. But it didn't help. So they're all sitting a lot better in that track, which is where they need to be. Because the actual track itself, where the lip is, it kind of arcs a little bit like that, if that makes sense, in there. So anyway, that's the last one I've done. And so there's one still grabbing somewhere, but I'll have that one back in again and we'll have a look around. Right, so I'm finally back in here again. This is doing me head in, is this thing. So I don't know how long I've spent on it now. Got to the stage where we could put all the arms back together, and pretty much it goes around all right. Don't know when it catches that, to be fair, but so she goes around all right. There is one that's just ever so slightly catching, but we're looking good. And then oh, I'm taking it back now. So we've had roll pins in these, and the ones that came out would not go back in that hole. I mean, for love nor money. I even took it down to Christopher in his workshop to let him have a go at it, because he said it'll go back in. If it came out, it'll go back in. And I'm like, I know, it won't. So I took it down to him. He took 3 beats on it. I went, no, it won't fit. So, and then he said, well, does a roll pin fit? I was like, well, if I take, this is a 12 mil. So fit that in, it'll go. It's lovely. You put it into there and it goes through, but there's a little bit. He said, well, has that been drilled out? I was like, well, I haven't drilled it. He says, well, if there's slack in there, it should be as tight as that. But it definitely isn't. So he's gone, well, somebody's drilled that out then, haven't they? I went, oh. So basically, long and short is, I need to take all them arms back out again and have a look and see how many have been bored out, because that little bit of sloppers, to be fair, as they rightly said, if it slops, it's wearing, and if it's wearing, it's going to snap. So that's definitely one to do. Because the problem is, I might as well show you on this one, because this is the second one, can do it. I'll take it to the bench. I'm going to get dirty hands already. I didn't put my gloves on yet. Right. Oh, right, stay. So, you're not going to stay, are you? I don't know how much you'll see of that, but there is some slight movement. I can't do it, I needed 2 hands, but there is slight movement of this on that shaft because of the roll pins. So yeah, I need to drill out all the ones that are 14mm there, but a 12 there, turn the 12s into a 14, and buy new roll pins and put them in, because somewhere in here I've lost like 2 or 3 roll pins because they fired out as I was trying to brain through the tight hole. So oh, the other good news is I don't have a 14mm bit either. So I've got, everything I've got is little sets like this, and yeah, 10mm. So I bought these the other day. These are rotor brooches, and the 14, 16, 18, 20, 22. Well, the only problem is these are straight faced. So if you look across, they're straight. Well, trying to fit that, oh, sorry, I should say that fits lovely in there. But trying to drill a hole down there that's spot on with the setup I've got, even if I put mag drill on, at least with an ordinary drill bit that's tapered, well, it's not a drill bit, but it'll at least catch the side of the hole and pull itself central, and you can make the hole right. Whereas that, you kind of, you're in for it. Ooh. So anyway, plus the other day I stuck a roll pin in, put the centre roll pin in, and it snaps. I tried to get it out with a small punch. Broke the actual punch. That was the second one. Broke the first one in it, and then couldn't get it out for love nor money. In fact, it's somewhere on this bench. I got so annoyed with it. So it took me about an hour to get that roll pin out with the centre punch and its other roll pin in it, by cutting, grinding and brain. I basically ended up with blowtorch just to try and warm it up, and did tricks. So. Trials and tribulations. If I knew about that hole being the wrong size or being oversized, I wouldn't have minded. I could have just got these done, and that would have been back together and out this workshop. So, right, long story short, I'm going to get on. Might have a brew first though. Right, so we've got to, well, about 20 past 1 now. So I've drilled all these out with that. So I bought this off a mate of mine a good 6 months ago, and well, I hadn't really used it, to be fair. But today was the day. So we need to drill these out to 14s because of the wrong size to fit in there, as I said before. So I managed to find a HSS drill bit from the estate, which I nicked. Put those into my vise down like that, and then just bored it through. It is actually sat on a pair of Sanderson loader brackets, but hey ho, you do what you can do. So yeah, went through like a hot knife through butter, to be fair. A bit of cutting oil onto it, and straight through. Here's only a 13mm, so we still need another mil out of it, which I have to buy another drill bit, but I thought at least that just takes a little bit out of the hole before 14 goes through and makes life a little bit easier. So yeah, they're not looking too bad. So right, time for some lunch and a brew, and then I need to take that off, and I might just mount that onto the base just so it's done and get something done today. Right, so a bit of an update now. As you can see, I've actually set this out. I stripped it back down again to get those bolts on. It's a lot easier than trying to fight with it. So, and I put the bolts right around this time as well. Somebody's obviously put them wrong, so the nuts are on underside and bolts are on top. A couple of these are the ones that were sloppy. And if you look now, there's movement in there's no movement on the shaft through that roll pin. So I managed to get 13 done, and then lad next door has just turned up. Well, I brought my vice off as well, so started trying to tap it. So the lad next door turned up, and ram those ends through at 14mm rather than 12. I managed to get 2 roll pins to fit in. Somewhere in here there is another roll pin lost. One the other lad's got, and I've used one of his spare ones anyway. But there's 3 that I need roll pins for to finish the arms off, and they're done. But I decided to do that because then that hub and that hat can go back on again onto there. And I think I've got it the way around so that basically that sits on there like that. And if you look where the notches are, left and the right, so you can have it all swept to the left or to the right. Well, this is a left-hand side machine, so I'm expecting them to line up and be in the right spot, even though it says L on that side. And that way it's supposed to be around. Yeah, I need to check. So I mean, it gets a bit complicated, a bit weird at times. So. But yeah, that can get back on then, and then I can build it back up, and all I need to do is slide them back in, bolt it up, put the top bit on, bolt that up, and it's done. Good morning, ladies and gents, welcome to Tuesday morning. And as you can see, I've actually finished this. So, to be fair, I didn't actually get a lot of photographs, video of us finishing it off, because, well, there was only 3 arms to put in, which we got the roll pins for, and put them in. Then all I had to do is put the frame back on again, which needed 2, and the lad didn't really want to get filmed, so that was back on again. And then all we did was change the bearing out that's behind there, where the PTO shaft runs through that centre of that bearing, and then push the PTO shaft back on, which is fairly standard stuff. So yeah, I can't fold her out at the moment, but she was turning very nicely. The only thing we do have is a bit of a grumble on it, but there's a plate under here, like a tin plate. It just stops all the rubbish coming from out here up underneath and into where the big gear wheel is and pinion is, and that just seems to be touching kind of around here somewhere. It's just ever so slight, but I'm not too worried about that. To be fair, by the time it's done, an hour is turning around it, the worn itself out anyway, so I'll worn the bit off that it needs, so I'm not too worried about that. We haven't put any locking on that big nut. I'm just going to take his time with it and see how we get on. If maybe we can put a pin through the middle of it. So if I could just get a new nut as well, but we'll see. I think this thing's cost enough as it is. But yeah, she's back together again, and hopefully going to do a few years' work. The only thing we do have to sort out as well is the tyre heights as well. So at the moment, this one's kind of set at halfway around, which way you'll see it better. So she's kind of set at half, whereas the other one's pretty much right around to the other side. But I think the idea is that you're supposed to leave her on that way, which pulls that pin out, which then you can change your height. You're supposed to push that in, pull that pin out, and then set your height on it. So really what it's done when the tractor's attached to it, and all the weight's off it. But yeah, started at Christmas and finished it at the end of January, so anyway, that's going to be it for this project. On to the next one.